And welcome to RTS Sports Talk. I am Maka Bukasher, joined with my partner in crime, Billy Grand Hefe Hatton. Billy, how you doing today, man?
Doing all right. Hey, Mike, it's chilly today, man. I'm
It's
just gonna let you know.
it's chilly.
It's chilly today.
Up here in southern Indiana, it's a beautiful 55 degrees today, Billy.
30 degrees.
Oh,
Yeah,
see, and the people are talking about global warming and like all this stuff. It's 30 degrees in Texas, and in Indiana, it's 55 degrees. So
it's crazy, huh?
So what is really happening? That is all. That is all a lie.
63 degrees in Tallahassee. I wish I was back home right now.
There you go, man. Like that is perfect weather.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is Donald Trump's fault.
Yes.
Trump, this is your fault that it is warmer in Indiana than it is in Texas.
For sure. At least that's how us Texans feel.
Exactly. So Trump, fix this right now. We want the government shut down until you fix this weather.
For sure.
Well,
definitely
Billy,
fix this weather.
Well, Billy, let's kind of leave the politics out there because we don't want to get people too riled up. But Russell Westbrook got his 14th triple-double last night. With that being said, what is a more impressive streak so far this season in your eyes? Is it James Harden's 20 straight games with 30-plus points, or Russell Westbrook's 14 triple-doubles so far this season?
I would have to say Russell Westbrook triple-doubles. And I know it's tough to score in this league, but that's what James Harden do. He's a scorer. And the way that he scores, it's really not hard. The manipulation of the refs, the shooting, the enormous amount of free throws. If I'm as good as James Harden, if I can shoot the three as good as him, if I can get to the hole as good as him, and then I can add 15 free throws a night on top of that, well, that's how it should be. But getting triple doubles, there's a special kind of luck that's involved in that. Yeah, you can get the 10 points, but as a guard, it ain't easy getting rebounds. You know, also getting assists, that's by luck. Man, you got to hope that the other guy makes it. You know, so for me, I think the 14 triple doubles is a far greater feat than the 20 games with 30 plus points. Now, neither one of them is easy. Let's put it into perspective here. Neither one is easy. Both are hard. Both are impressive. But if I had to pick one or the other, I'm going to go Russell Westbrook in a triple-double.
I definitely have to agree with you, except for the scoring is easy in the NBA. Look at some of the scores that's like this past night. You have 130 to 113. You have 145 to 126. You have 110 to 100 to like 108. Points are coming very easy in the NBA. If this was back when Michael Jordan played and Scottie Pippen and all those guys, I really think the 20 straight games with 30 plus points would be more impressive because it is just a different era of basketball there. Like they would start to basically take you out when you got close to that 30-point mark just because they didn't want you to continue the streak on them. It was a very, very dirty type of game, I want to say. So Russell Westbrook's 14 triple doubles is by far more impressive because everything of what you just said. Yes, scoring the 10 points is like easy, but then the assist or the rebounds or the steals or even the block shots, like those are hard to get because you are basically relying on other people, you know, to miss shots, to hit shots, you know, that kind of thing. So,
and to your point about the scores, man, I said this, I think it was the first week of the NBA season. I was like, does anybody play defense?
No.
Mike, there wasn't a score under 100 points in the first week of the season. Not one game under 100 points. And it seemed like, do anybody play defense anymore? Like, but this is what, similar to the NFL, this is what the NBA wants, Mike. They want to score points because they know that's what keeps people in the seat. As long as the ball is going through the basket, That's what gets people excited. So they're okay with this.
Yeah,
Don't play no defense.
that is exactly what the NBA wants. They want behind the arc shots and big dunks. They don't care about the 8 to 16-foot shot anymore. They want big arcing 3-point half court shots or big dunks. So
yep, haven't seen a team win really under 100 points this whole game, this whole season. It's happened a few times.
Yeah,
but
say the only team I can think of is the Spurs because they still kind of have that old school ways of playing. Like I think still.
Yeah.
So, well, Billy, on this week we're going to try to introduce a new segment. Since Wednesday is Hump Day, this is going to be Over the Hump. So we are going to basically talk, a few topics here, and we're going to see if that team, that player, that league or game can get over the hump. So the first one that we have with the firing of Bob Sutton, does Kansas City get over the hump and win the AFC next season?
I'm not sure, Mike, and I'm not sure because, yeah, I get it. Bob Sutton was the defensive coordinator, so he's the guy that's I guess, quote unquote, in charge. But I don't think you can fix stupid, Mike, honestly. I mean, and I say that in the most respectful way possible. Bob Sutton couldn't have stopped Julian Edelman from getting a first down after he ran 17 slants, as if the DB didn't know that was coming. Your job is to also know your opponent. The great DBs study their opponents. They know their tendencies. On third down, they like to do this. So, yeah, Bob Sutton is, I guess, the head, and he's ultimately responsible for that bad defense. He also had a lot of injuries last year. Started out the season, didn't have Justin Houston, Eric Berry. So, for me, yeah, I mean, getting rid of him, yeah, you needed a new voice in the locker room. I can see that. I have no problem with that. He probably deserves to be fired because this happened on your watch. But I think this ultimately falls on the players. If you hear the great players, Jalen Ramsey, the Richard Shermans, when he was at the top of his peak, they know what guys are gonna do. They know, okay, he's lining up here. He likes to do this when he do that. And it didn't seem like any of the Kansas City DBs knew what were going on the other night. I don't know if I can contribute that to Bob Sutton when guys are making millions of dollars to perfect their craft.
Well, I see what you're saying there, but at those same times, those players that you just mentioned, Jalen Ramsey, Richard Sherman, and et cetera, they had pretty darn good defensive coordinators on their side. They put them in the correct positions to know what was happening. Those defensive coordinators studied hours of tape, hours of film, and they knew what the players were going to do. Yes, those players put in film hours too, but their defensive coordinator also had a game plan for them to succeed. And I am not going to say that the Chiefs will get over the hump yet because we don't know what Tom Brady and the Patriots are going to do. Is Tom Brady going to come back? We don't know. Are they still going to be good? I mean, probably. So I'm going to say no. They're not going to get over the hump because you have to look at the AFC. The AFC is kind of starting to get pretty stacked. You still have the Colts that are really darn good. You have the Chargers that are really darn good. You even have the Houston Texans that are pretty darn good. So the Chiefs have to have almost basically a carbon copy season like they had to really even have a chance to make it to the division championship game. So to say that they are going to get over the hump by just adding a new defensive coordinator, I'm going to have to say no, they're not going to get over that hump.
Which is, and that's my problem, Mike. If they were one game away from the Super Bowl this year with Bob Sutton, and you're telling me that he's the problem, and you don't know if they're still going to get over the hump, then that tells me Bob Sutton is not the problem. And that's where it goes back to, Mike. Yeah, the coaches study film, and they're putting you in the right situations in order to be successful. But when your technique is flawed, when you keep getting beat inside on the same route, That's not Bob Sutton's fault. That's not his fault. Good players learn to adjust, and it don't seem like anybody on the Kansas City defense side adjusted to anything. You know that it's coming. Everybody knew it was coming. Tony Romo's calling it out, and I get it. You can say that Jalen Ramsey and these guys had good defensive coordinators, but did they really? I mean, Richard Sherman switched defensive coordinators twice, and he was still the same guy. So a guy was putting in preparation, a guy was putting in work. The same with Jalen Ramsey. Well, Jalen Ramsey had a first-time coordinator, and he did this in his rookie season. So I'm just saying, Bob Sutton was there when Marcus Peters caught his 8 interceptions. So it's all about the player preparation. I can put you in the right position. I can lead you to where you need to be, but it's up to you to do what you need to do. And yeah, like I say, ultimately it's on him because he's the overseer. But let's not make a mistake here and put it all on him, because the Patriots just lined up and they ran the same play over and over and over and over again. That got nothing to do with Bob Sutton.
It was a game of Madden on easy, basically what it looked like in that final fourth quarter and overtime, to be honest with you. So
it's the people that run the same play and cover two. It's the same.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to the next over the hump. Last Friday, Boogie Cousins made his Golden State debut. The Golden State Warriors are now ranked number 1 in the NBA power rankings. If you remember correctly, earlier this year, they had their first 3-game losing streak under Steve Kerr, and they ultimately end up losing. I believe it was 6 of 8 games in a row before they kind of started a little run, and they lost a few more games. With the addition of Boogie Cousins, are the Golden State Warriors over the hump of losing consecutive games for the rest of the year?
I don't know if they are not lose consecutive games. I think that they probably will. Steph and Clay and them, somebody's going to take a rest. It's just going to be a bad night. But I don't see anybody beating them, in the playoffs and the finals. But yeah, I can still see them losing consecutive games. Boogie's still kind of working his way back in there. Maybe he needs a day or two of rest. Steph always gets hurt magically. He's going to need a few days. So they're going to miss days because they're going to be beatable in some of these games because some of their key players are going to be missing in some of these games. So I don't know if they're quite over the hump yet in that regards, but I know nobody will beat them at full strength 4 times.
So I think they are over that hump. I don't think they will lose consecutive games for the rest of the year because of that. Just because of the fact that they have so much depth. They have 5 All-Stars starting on this team. You saw this the other night when the Warriors played LA. Clay Thompson hit 10 3-pointers in a row. And then the very next night you can have Curry hit 10 straight threes. And then the next night you can have Cousins just be a dominant force down on the block. So yes, I know Curry is going to get hurt. Clay Thompson is going to take a day off. KID is going to take a day off. But they are so deep and so talented as a team that just they will always have the next guy up mentality. And those 5 guys are playing for max contract deals after this year. So I think they are going to seize the opportunity to definitely not lose any games.
But I think everybody that's going to get a max deal is already set to get a max deal. Clay Thompson can have one of the worst stretches of his career right now, and they would still give him a max deal. And he's already lined up to get that deal if he wants it. when guys like Ryan Anderson was getting 80, 90 million dollars, Klay Thompson is going to get his money regardless of what he do because of everybody know how great he is. Boogie is playing for his next team, but he doesn't necessarily have to be great right now. So, I mean, things happen. Things happen. Now, I'm not saying that they will lose. I'm just saying things happen over the course of a game that may not go your way, and it's easy for the Warriors with the team that they have now to just say, this ain't our night. It is what it is. This ain't our night.
No, check it out. Yeah, I definitely
because Draymond already said everybody want us to break up because they know they can't beat us. Nobody can beat us. They know that.
Right.
They know nobody can beat them. So if they just having an off night, it's easy for them to say whatever because we can't be beat regardless. When it comes down to it, beat us 4 times. That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, that's a great point there. So let's stick on the hardwood here, but let's drop down to the amateur hardwood. My Kansas State Cats beat Texas Tech Red Raiders last night, winning their 5th straight game. Earlier this season, when Kansas State was hit by the injury bug very, very hard, they dropped 3 games to teams that basically they shouldn't have lost to. Is Kansas State over the hump and back in consideration of being one of the top teams in the NCAA?
I'm not sure, Mike. Kansas State is one of those teams that they're normally decent just about every year. But are they one of the better teams in the league? Yeah, I would say so. Do I have much faith in them? You're gonna have to show me a little bit more. So I don't know if I'm ready to put them back in that national spotlight of beating the good teams, the Kansases, the Dukes, the Villanovas, Tennessees. I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet, but I mean, I think they can beat some of these bottom tier teams. You got LSU ranked at 25. I think Kansas State could easily give those guys a run. Maybe 19 through 25, they can beat any of those teams. I'm not sure about the rest of the teams above that, though.
Okay, so Kansas State is a team that when they are expected to perform, they underperform. When they are expected to underperform, they overperform. And right now, they are expected to underperform for the rest of the year, and that is the reason why they are over that hump. They are, in my eyes, that they are back in that Sweet 16, Elite 8 conversation again. They have the experience to beat a Kentucky team in the Sweet 16 again. They have the experience to beat a Auburn team. They are going to beat the Kansas Jayhawks here in a few weeks, and then they run around and they play them again in a few weeks. They will beat Kansas Jayhawks twice this year, and that's why they're over that hump. They're going to win the Big 12 championship and be national championships.
I get that. Most teams do play well when their back's up against the wall, when there's no spotlight on them. But how do you play when there's spotlight on you? That's really what matters, because if you have aspirations of being one of those top tier teams, the spotlight will be on you. And if you don't play well when the spotlight is on you, but when people are counting you out, because it's something about being counted out, Mike.
Right.
You pull something extra out of you every single night to prove people like, this is why you don't count me wrong or count me out. But it's how you are when you the top dog. Can they do that as the top dog? I'm not sure yet, but I agree with your point that with no expectations going forward, they can. They are a dangerous team,
and they haven't lost anybody from their elite run this past year. So
and they're at full strength, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes, everybody is back. Our point guard Stokes has something wrong on his ankle, but the only thing that can fix it is just rest. So and it's just a pain tolerance thing. So he is kind of he is a day-to-day type of thing. But let's move over to the NFL. Breaking news here in the last 45 minutes to like an hour. Larry Fitzgerald signed a 1-year contract with the Arizona Cardinals. So far, the Cardinals are making a little bit of noise by signing him. They got their new head coach, and they got the number 1 overall pick. Does this get them over that 4-win hump for the 2019 season?
Wow, Mike, so low of expectations. I like it. I like it. I'm not sure, Mike. Honestly, I'm not sure. They're gonna have the benefit of playing a last place schedule, and were they better than 2 wins? Yeah, I'm sure. But I don't know. So I'm gonna say no. Larry Fitzgerald is old. Who knows how his body is gonna do this season? You have a brand new head coach, a coach that I really don't believe in as a head coach. I believe in his coaching of quarterbacks ability, his coaching of the offense ability. So yeah, I get that. But what about that defense? What are you going to do on defense? What are you going to do with Patrick Peterson not wanting to be on the team anymore? So I don't know if I'm ready to say that they're going to get over that 4-game hump, but it's nice to see a legend, Larry Fitzgerald, coming back. Shows what kind of guy he is.
Yeah, I think he has kind of alternative motives to coming back this season. He is just,
of course,
he is just 22 yards behind Tony Gonzalez for second all-time on the all-time receiving list, and I believe he is only 500 or 600 yards behind the number 1, which I believe is Jerry Rice, if I'm not mistaken. But looking at their opponents this next season, they are in the division with the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. If Jimmy G comes back in any type of form that he was last year, the Rams will not win a division game next season. They will drop to the Rams twice, they will drop to the 49ers twice, and they'll drop to the Seahawks twice. And then they play the Falcons, a loss. They play the Panthers, loss. They play the Browns, loss.
You better hope it's a loss because they playing without Cam Newton.
Well, they are going to pick up
possibly
Colin Kaepernick or Teddy Bridgewater, or they'll even get Kyler Murray in the draft. But I've also heard Kyler Murray's going to the Patriots, like they would
and the Raiders.
Right.
You see what John Gruden said.
Right. So
we don't care about height. We just want the best players.
But just looking at their schedule, they play the Panthers, Browns, Steelers, Lions, Ravens, Bengals, Saints, Giants, and Bucks.
It's a tough schedule.
It's a very tough schedule. You can really only circle 2 games, I think, and say, these are like wins, and that's the Giants, and I want to say the Steelers since they play them at home. So
I don't even know about that, Mike. I would even go Tampa Bay and Carolina. Because if you look at the Giants is one of those teams that I put in the category of how it was with the Dallas Cowboys about 3 years ago.
Right.
When they went 4-12 and they was able to get Ezekiel Elliott, they wasn't a bad football team. They just had lost Tony Romo that year, and they were playing with Brandon Weeden and whoever else that they were playing with at quarterback. So they were so their record, the Giants is a very good football team. Let's say they get Dwayne Haskins. A guy who can push the ball down the field. I think they're right there at the top of the NFC East again. So I'm not even sure if the Giants is a walkover next season with a better quarterback.
Well, if they, with their current roster constructed and like Eli manning that team, they are a 3-win team again. Let's be totally honest.
And I think they're still better than the Cardinals.
Okay. I mean, we will I guess we'll find that out in 2019.
I mean, every position to me will be better.
Yeah.
The quarterback,
right.
I would take Eli Manning over Josh Rosen any day, even right now.
Okay.
I would take Odell Beckham over Larry Fitzgerald right now.
True.
I would take Saquon over David Johnson right now. I would take Evan Ingram, the tight end, over whoever the Cardinals got right now. So the Giants is not a bad football team. They just had a bad season.
Yeah, they were kind of the Browns earlier this season, but they just couldn't have the ball bounce their way.
Yeah, exactly.
So just looking at their 2019 opponents, they're home. That's
a tough schedule.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule.
It's a tough schedule.
And
it's a tough schedule.
I can really foresee only 3 wins, so they're definitely not over that 4-win hump.
So,
Yeah.
so do they fire Cliff Kingsbury
It
for a 3-win season like they fired Steve Wilkes?
it just depends who is available as the head
They're not. They're
coaching.
not firing him, Mike. They're not going to do
You
that.
don't think he is just keeping the seat warm for
No.
Mike
Oh, of
Holmgren or
course not,
something?
Mike. Of course not. Steve Wilkes was keeping the seat warm. That's the guy that was keeping the seat warm. Because now they got their quote unquote Sean McVay. They got their young, the young innovative coach to match with their young superstar. Now he is the guy there, and you don't go get him from USC to fire him after 1 year.
Well, you could very well be. So let me throw in a bonus question here, Hatton.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does their head coach get over that hump? Is it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? He won't ever get over a 5-win year?
I don't know, honestly, Mike, because I don't know the type of talent that they have. Right now, I think it's a long shot for any even postseason aspirations. I think it's a long shot now for even an 8-win season, honestly, because if you look at this roster, Patrick Peterson is getting older.
Yeah.
You know, he's been in the league for a while. He's already won a trade. Larry Fitzgerald is 36 years old. Yeah, I mean, and why wouldn't he, honestly? Larry Fitzgerald is 36 years old. Matthew said this a long time ago, earlier in the year, that he's never seen a guy hurt his hand and come back and act like he couldn't run the football. David Johnson is not the same guy that they gave that contract to.
Right.
So I don't know how long it's going to take for him to have to rebuild a whole new team, because they don't have anybody on that roster that anybody else would want outside of Patrick Peterson. So I don't know.
That's a very good point. So I guess the real question comes, we can say this for a off season talk though, but the question kind of arises is how long do they give Cliff to really build the team, because they are shown that they'll fire a coach after a year. So I'm kind of intrigued.
I think they're going to give him 3 years. I think they will give him 3 years. Like I said, I just don't believe Steve Wilkes was ever really the guy. They hired him maybe hoping that, if this does work out, man, that's perfect for us. But if not, we're going to find somebody else next season anyway. Which, they fired the offensive coordinator early in the year. Then, it was inevitable that this was going to happen. So I think Cliffs get at least 2 to 3 years with Josh Rosen.
All right, that's a very good point there. So let's totally switch gears here, going from the cold, bitter to a warm spring type feeling. The Baseball Hall of Fame voting was completed yesterday, and there were a few names that got in there, but the steroid era players still have not been voted in. These players are Barry Bonds, Curt Schillings, and Roger Clemens. Will these 3 players ever get over the hump and get into the Hall of Fame?
I don't know, Mike, honestly. And it's honestly, to me, a shame. I don't know. I mean, these baseball purists talk about how it messes up the game and all this other stuff. I'm not so sure that it does. These guys deserve to be in. These guys are better than most of these guys that's getting into the Hall of Fame right now. Outside of Mariano Rivera yesterday, Barry Bonds is better. And honestly, Barry Bonds is better than every player that has gotten into the Hall of Fame recently.
Great.
I'm willing to put anything I own on that. Barry Bonds is one of the best baseball players I have ever seen in my life. And I get it. Whatever you say, steroids helped him do that. But I played baseball, and I don't care how many steroids you take or how much steroids you take. If you don't have hand-eye coordination, it don't mean a thing.
Exactly.
And if you look at Barry Bonds' numbers pre-steroid era, if you look at Barry Bonds' numbers pre-steroid era, it's better than Ken Griffey Jr. numbers in his whole career. And Ken Griffey Jr. got in, obviously, the deserve to. He's one of my favorite baseball players. He's one of the first players that I grew up actually watching. Used to play the Ken Griffey Jr. baseball game and all that other stuff. But you look at Barry Bonds' numbers before they say he started using steroids. Ken Griffey Jr. couldn't even shine his shoes. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that these guys are not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm not so sure, Mike, if they would ever get over. I know I think Clemens had the highest, and he was at 61% or something like that. Barry Bonds was at about 59. I don't know if they ever get in, Mike, but it's a shame that they're not in already.
Yeah, I think at some point they will get over the hump after this older generation of the
when they die.
After the older.
No. After these guys die,
no.
After Barry Bonds dead or he's 90 years old, then they're induct him.
Well, I was thinking, after the older generation of like voters die off, and then the new generation comes in, because you are talking about the baseball purists and like all this stuff. Those are the people that are keeping these guys out. These younger generations, these younger voters, these younger sports writers, they see these impressive stats and they're like, why are these guys not in? Now, on the other hand here, the hitting the ball, steroids do not really affect hitting the ball because just like what you said, you need hand-eye coordination to still hit the ball. Yes, that little extra strength will help you hit the ball an extra 30 feet. So like instead of a off the wall, it goes over the fence. Like I get that. But the only way I think steroids really helped this era was the pitching with Kurt and Roger, because when you do take steroids, your muscles fatigue slower, so therefore you can pitch longer and harder during the game. So those are the only two people that I question that should ever get into the Hall of Fame, because the steroids did directly affect their performance on the field. Barry Bonds still had to see the ball, he still had to hit the ball, and he still had to run the bases.
And before he even started that, Mike, his stats are just off his pre-steroid stats alone, Mike, he's a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Just off those stats. We're not even talking about the steroid era. We're talking about just pre-steroid era. His stats right there are good enough, are better than Jeff Bagwell, who just got in about a year or two ago.
Right.
Not even close, Mike.
We are talking Pittsburgh Pirates stats.
Yes, not even close, Mike. This Pittsburgh Pirate Barry Bonds. If you haven't seen that Barry Bonds, go please listen, Mike. This guy,
YouTube it, guys. YouTube it.
Yes,
he was.
I can't even get the words out, Mike. That's how good he was, Mike.
It was. Every time you saw him swing the bat, it was a very warm feeling that went through your body.
Baseball is my first love, Mike. That's the first sport that my dad got me started in, and I used to coach it when I first got out here to El Paso. And I love and it hurts me, Mike, to see a guy like Barry Bonds sitting 10 years on a ballot, 10 years on a ballot, and guys that couldn't even be in the same locker room with him is getting in the Hall of Fame.
I.e. Jeff.
Yes, come on. I love Jeff Bagwell, but listen, man, he's nowhere near the player that Barry Bonds is, and that's why we have to get rid of in football and in baseball, Mike. These writers. I don't care about these writers, Mike. Right. Give me the players. I want to hear what the players have to say, because these writers have their own agenda. T.O., when he retired, was either 1, 2, or 3 in every receiving statistical category.
Right.
Why did this man have to wait 3 years? Because you say, oh, he's not a team player. No, I thought the Hall of Fame was due to how well I play on the
individual field. Stats. Yeah.
But yet and still, because you don't like me, because you think that, oh, I'm a locker room cancer, when all I know is this guy played in the Super Bowl on a broke leg and had 10 catches for 100-some yards and a touchdown. A guy who put his life on the line every single day for his teammates, and we're talking about how he was in the locker room, or we're talking about steroids when this guy is clearly the best baseball player that most of us have ever seen. Get rid of these writers, Mike, because they have their own agendas and they let in who they want to let in, and that's not fair, because the Hall of Fame is supposed to be what I've done on the field. Statistics, what I've done on the field. And T.O., just like Barrett Bonds, it couldn't be matched. Only Jerry Rice and Randy Moss had better stats than T.O. when he retired. Nobody is on the level of Barrett Bonds. And that's crazy.
And I agree everything you're saying, man. Like, it is crazy that we are faulting these three players for putting stuff in their body that everybody in that era was doing.
Using it, Mike.
They just happen to be the biggest names in that era, and they're being punished for it, which is it's stupid. It's stupid.
Crazy,
let's be honest. Well, guys, that is RTF Sports Talk for today. Join us tomorrow as we have Buy or Sell. This is another new segment that we're adding in. I actually think we did this last week, if I'm not mistaken.
But this is the second week. We introduced it last week.
So there we guys go. Be sure to give us a comment, a ranking, preferably 5 stars. We're on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Speaker, Breaker, Catbox, Stitcher. Anywhere you find your podcast, we're there. Billy, send us out.
We want to extend our thanks for you guys. Continue to listen to the podcast. Continue to support the podcast. Mike, as always, good talking some sports with you, my brother. Go Nose.
Hey, and shout out to all the people that are listening to us in Spain.
For sure.
Love you guys.
All y'all. See you guys tomorrow.
Go Cats.
Dog pound.
See you.